Rock and roll. Music slowly fades in. Welcome to the Friday. If you're living in Auckland, you're enjoying the semi-lockdown of a level 2.5. If you're living out of it, it's probably the same for the last couple of weeks. And if you're in the States, you're on month 5 of lockdown. So, same shit, different day. It's copy-paste, groundhog. Welcome along, Robett Live. A couple of cool guests today, and also a pretty interesting 1-minute pitch that's going to be coming up, which I think you'll be very interested in. We've got actually a 1-minute pitch is actually just trying to join the chat room. It's like, mate, you're not on for a little bit, but if you stick around, I'll maybe give you an earlier run if you want, but you'll see when you pop up. Interesting first. So the show today, first guest. I'm just going to jump straight into it. Cam Swainson, how are you, mate?
Very good. How are you, good sir?
I do like it that you've jumped straight in the mix and you have probably one of the best audio setups of all time. You've got the little pop filter going on. You've got the thing in the back. You've got a fresh fade. You've even had a shower this morning. Looking bloody great, mate. Give you that to start with. I'll give you some claps for more hair than me. There you go. For those who don't know who you are and what you do, give yourself a quick little spiel. Then I'm really interested to get into the topic of what we're going to talk about. Give a quick little spiel.
Yes, I'm Cam Swainson whānga. So I've been working in television sort of almost 20 years, but in the last 4 years getting into game development and trying to use that as educational and gamification of learning. And that's where I am now.
Very succinct there, mate. Very succinct.
Yeah.
Plus, we can do you understand the edtech space, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of get straight into was let's talk about lockdown and the effects of schooling, edtech, and kids at home learning. How stuffed are some of our children going to get mentally from being on lockdown for so long? Is it an issue? Is it not? Does it matter? What's your thoughts on lockdown and the effects on kids?
Yeah, my opinion comes from, I've got 3 kids, 10, 12, and 15. So from my perspective, I see what's happening with them through the lockdowns and that's happening. Yeah, I definitely think there could be some flow-on effect. It all depends how each parent manages in there. It's around device time per day. The teachers have got on board very quick. So usually they'll have 2 or 3 hours worth of stuff they can do in the day, but the rest of the time, because they can't go anywhere by default, I know a lot of parents, even ourselves, are a bit guilty, 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, we know they're on that device. So the flow on of the wellness from that could be quite big.
Is it like the same thing that happened with watching adults go through the first round to the second? There was very clearly a shift in emotion that happened with adults going to the second. The first felt we're unified, we are one. The second, for a lot of those that I've talked to, is very much like, oh shit, not again, and it sort of stuffed a whole bunch of people up mentally. When cell phones first came along, no one probably thought the pure impacts of phone addiction and all these other bits and pieces that come along with it. For sustained periods of time, because I guess this is kind of short little spurts, do you think it's going to have an effect on the future generation just yet? Or they'll remember it like, oh, remember we hung at home a whole bunch and our teacher was on a screen? Like, how do you think this plays out? If it cycles like this for, I don't know, stop, go, lollipop, lockdown, lock on, lockdown, how do you think this plays out mentally for kids?
Yeah, they're going to look back, and my kids were asking, they go, Dad, what's going to happen in a few years in that? And when we get older, we'll refer back to this. And we're all talking, saying that this may be the new normal. Babies being born now, this may be the only world they know, that people walk around with masks and you do schooling from home, which is a horrible thing to think. But my kids are thinking that they'll be part of history and that it may not. And I think what you're referring to, that yo-yo, we're back in it. I think there's a realization, it's click like, holy heck, this thing is not going away easily. And we could do it again in 2 months and in 4 months, another super bug in 10 months. Holy heck. I think the second one is now hitting home. Wow, we've got to change the way we live, our businesses, how we earn money. I think it's a really big wake-up call.
Definitely agree. The mental headspace of business people that I've talked to for the second one has started to totally reframe how they actually thinking about the sustainability of certain types of businesses, the industries they're in, how they actually operate. When it comes to school and the integration of tech, it feels like technology's almost saved the education sector than if it was 10 years ago, right? Because could you imagine in 2009 or 10 trying to do Skype calls through, I mean, for starters, the technology didn't actually exist. So in a weird way, we've finally only in the last maybe, I don't know, what, 3 years, we've had broadband good enough and technology that can chuck on, 250 people in a Google Hangouts or a Microsoft Teams or whatever it may be. Has technology actually saved education in 2020 instead of if it was 2010?
Absolutely. I think big time it's allowed the teachers to still connect, keep an eye on the learning and teaching it. And moving forward over the next 10, 20 years, technology may help revolutionize education. It sort of has with YouTube now. How many people know how to tile their bathroom now because of YouTube and learning? So the method of learning and education itself, no, you haven't learned to tile?
I digress.
But yeah, so no, I think, the timing 10 years ago, we would have been stuffed. There just wouldn't have been no learning during this period. But moving forward, I think it's sped up what probably was coming in anyway. But you got Udemy and these massive sort of almost university online and all of them, and people are learning that way now. So I think it's just a prelude to actually a whole revitalization or a whole change in the education sector. How communities and society teach their next generation is completely going to be changing.
What do you think's been broken with education in New Zealand in the last in our generation that's come through, say in the last 20 years?
I don't think it's changed much in 100 years, and that's probably the big problem is someone up the front, one size, one delivery fits all 30 kids. So, and what's broken, maybe looking after the teachers. They haven't been looked after. It's become more stressful, their well-being.
Not the kids, it's actually teacher-based.
I think part of it's the teacher base not being looked after by government, societies, the pay rates they get, everything is just horrible. So there's one that's broken. It hasn't fit with the time. They're one of the most important professions in our societies, yet they're paid one of the lowest. So I think that's sort of broken. Maybe they were always low paid, but that and just that one size fits all. I think we realize now that people have different learning styles and learning methods, and we need to adapt and try and have multiple ways so that everyone can come out the other end educated.
How much more do you think the New Zealand education system needs to change for the needs that you feel your children actually have?
I think the government and some of the funding models would be more helpful if people like myself and a lot of other who are making really good resources for the teachers, that they know that they exist and that there's plenty of them. The lesson planning sort of helped and done. All the resources are there, so the teachers don't spend 3 hours before and 2 hours after school, etc., doing all the sort of extra pre-work. I think if the government, at the moment, each school and each teacher gets to choose which resource they want and separate funding, and people like me have got to try and reach 2,500 schools. We have to go one by one by one, and the teachers don't know we exist. If they did, they'd use more and more of us out there. So I think that area there could be improved, and it could really help.
I like the thinking of not necessarily at the student level, but actually to the teachers who are doing it. And in New Zealand, we've had multiple strikes for nurses and teachers and police and whatever else as well. In a situation like, say, COVID, the heroes are the frontline workers, the heroes are the doctors and the nurses. And then the heroes also with other teachers. In many ways, I get, my mum was a teacher for many years and my wife's a nurse. So I both of those things are very close to home. And I definitely feel it seems like a bit of a disconnect for the things that truly matter financially with how they're actually compensated for the actual true value of what they do for society. So I'm a massive fan of teachers and all those sort of workers doing it. But then it sort of brings you to the point of, okay, well, the teachers are from education budget. Education is the politics. Everything, it's funny, the older you get, everything leads back to politics somehow. It's all about flipping power and money and politics. It's like, I've been really intrigued, just every touch point, if you follow it all the way up, sooner or later, it gets to somewhere and, at the beehive that it affects you. If you were the Minister of education. I guess that's probably the right person. I don't know who that is. I'm sure it's someone very smart. What would you change about the New Zealand education system now to make it better for your kids? What would you do differently if you could make it like no politics, no drama, no voting, no nothing? You could just come in and just openly dictate. All right, Muppets, this shit's popping. Boom, 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 boom. What would you do?
I'd probably make some sort of compulsory list of predetermined resources that are signed off and approved by experts, Ministry of Ed, and say, okay, teachers and schools, you have 30. Here's your package of 30 to pick from. We've gone through, made them really good. We're subsidizing the costs of them. So just these are the ones to use. And here they are. They've got great lesson plans and all that, and in a technology base, so it's blended learning, so that they can use it in the classroom. But if anything happens, they can use it at home, etc. So that'd be my one big tick if Chris Hipkins is the minister.
Yep. Hollie Russell says, as a parent in New Zealand, do you feel it would be more beneficial for the teacher to facilitate class the duration of the school day instead of snips of Zoom calls?
Facilitate the whole school day. Potentially to try and keep the kids sitting and structured, but you could probably do snippets. And if it's a little more specified learning, and they can go away and do an exercise for 30 minutes, then come back. So maybe they could come on and off. I'd probably agree on that, come on and off 3 or 4 times through the day, but allow the children some agency, self-reliance to go away for half an hour, be trusted, then come back on and share your work with others and things like that. Or breakout rooms, you could do that type as well.
Yeah, it's funny when you become a parent and you start thinking about, what experience is my kid getting? Where they like you care a lot more. It's like when a friend of mine, for years he was just kind of just cruising along doing his thing, and then he bought his first house. And then I rang him one day on a Sunday, and he was out there at the front, and he was trimming the little corner side bits, blah blah. And he's like, "Mate, you'll be surprised as soon as something's yours, how much you genuinely give a shit about the most simple things." He's like, "And you wait to have kids, will be the same thing." And it's funny, when you have then kids, you're thinking about all these little things with how they're doing it. So right now in the tech space, where's the sweet spot you think between education and technology that not many people are actually capitalizing or trying to leverage right now? Where's the sweet spot of ed tech that most parents won't be doing?
For New Zealand, it's New Zealand based ed tech is, I guess, a sweet spot, meaning I take that as sort of where's missing or would be the perfect.
Where do you think, like right now, there's a huge opportunity for New Zealand between education and technology?
Yeah, definitely there for New Zealanders and content creators and educational content creators to make our stuff and make it a digital version of it. There's a lot of them have got, been in the game for a while, but they've got PDF or very basic versions. So that side of it there. The other sweet spot where we're in is the gamification of it, where there's just a reward system and really just upping it, because we've got to compete with other mediums that the students are used to playing, like Fortnite and things like that. Unfortunately, we're having to sort of match that really to keep their attention, which I don't think is a great thing, but it is what it is, and we've got to deliver to them, I think.
When most people have short attention spans, visually when they are interacting with a screen, if we look at TikTok, it's down to like the seconds. It's like when they're playing games, it's game overload, and then to use that same screen to sit there and just stare at it, not doing anything, it feels so counterintuitive for the way that they actually interact with a device. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's what's the problem. We've sort of programmed them now to get used to that. 50 years ago, a book and a radio, when that first came on, was amazing, but then then when you got video, TV to match with radio, you can't compete, etc. So yeah, you're exactly right. That they're just their way of consuming anything, whether it's learning, fun or not, it's just so lightning fast. And if it's not there, they almost switch off. And so it's a sad state that it's in that, but we've got to try and keep education coming along with it, I guess, matching.
I just think of does education need to potentially be redesigned for how it's been delivered? If the way that the general, if kids are consuming in a stream mentality, fast, go, 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 whatever, and then all of a sudden that they're learning not in a way that's like that, you've got two different formats which they don't, one they like because they're consuming, and the other one they don't like because they're, I guess, sort of sitting there, I guess, passively and just having it sort of come to them. Is there any stuff in the edtech space that you've seen that uses real micro short film versions of education, far like it's more gamified to the point where it's more things that they're intrinsically like or actually use natively? Does that make sense? Like, is the formatting of current education when they're trying to go virtual wrong?
No, there's a lot of new players in this over the last few years, and becoming really big around the world, and a lot of our students are using them. So there's a lot like that. It's very fast. It's a short lesson, could be 20 to 40 seconds long little video, and then you quickly got to answer, and it's and then 30
That's
seconds,
cool.
40 seconds, and that's
So it's
what we've done.
with time.
Yeah, we do that. All our resources is 30 to 40 second video lesson. That's it. And then we get into some sort of interactive, couple of questions, something, zip, 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 then back to a little video, zip, zip, for that reason, because that's where they're at. You can't show them a 10-minute video now and then ask 10 questions. That format, I don't think, will work. So we just do little reward at the end. They need the bing bing and the noises. Yep. Then you go on reward. Yeah. So that's the space we're in, and there's a few players in it. I think that's where the education system needs to go for everything almost.
I get it. And before we go, you've got a Kickstarter campaign that is sort of bubbling away. You want to have a quick little plug for that? I saw the link here. Go for it.
Yeah, so it's called Hyperlife. If anyone's out there, just go into Kickstarter or the Gene Swainson Foundation Facebook page, or Hyperlife, it's called. So it's a nature science-based reforestation game based in New Zealand, and it is exactly what we're talking about, but it's aligned with science and that's what we want to do. So we're just needing some funding to be able to kick that off. We've got the skills and ability to make this type of game. We've already done a few other financial literacy in Te Reo Māori, so it's just getting into this. It's important to teach the next generation around looking after our land, how you reforest, and gamifying it. There it is there. Yeah. We've partnered with Trees That Count, which will also plant a tree in the real world. So the funding is to ask you to plant a tree in the virtual world for this game learning resource. But also, if you back $50 or more, you get to plant a tree in the real world through Trees That Count, and you get to track it and everything. So just a really important resource. And we just hope that the New Zealand and anyone really could jump on and help us out. And yeah, we're very good at what we do, making the games in it. We just need a few dollars to.
So how big's the team to build this? How what's the timeline of it? You get your cash, then how does it work?
Yeah, we've got to need a year, and I've got a team of 18 at the moment, 3D modelers and also, and they're all based in New Zealand. We've got quite a few Māori that have trained up in that now as well. So make sure it's culturally appropriate and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of a team, but we can do it.
Yeah, nice, man. So they can just check out Hyperlife on Kickstarter.
That's it.
Easy, brother. Hey, appreciate your time, man. EdTech. It's honestly, I think I'm just becoming like just that classic thing. As soon as you start getting older, you just care about all this shit which you never thought you'd care about. Happens to all of us, mate. Appreciate your time. It's super cool the stuff you're doing. Is there another website people can go to? It's just Swainsons.com, you were saying?
Yeah, or Gene Swainson. Foundation.com, GeneSwainsonFoundation.com with a SWAIN in the middle there. That'd be great. They go there and they can see all the other work that we do and all the other learning resources we've created.
Yeah, mega. Appreciate it, brother. Stay safe, man. I'll talk to you soon, eh?
You too. Stay safe.
Later, bro. EdTech. The boy Leroy's on. Hard one, scrambling to design or forecast a system of learning for a future we can't predict to a degree. Jeez, Leroy. Jeez, that's pretty intellectual from someone from Owakuni, mate. Watch out. Jingle bells. Shot, brother. No, totally agree. Okay, awesome. Mahi. Anything that combats climate change in any way is crucial. Our rangatahi are the key, and getting them involved means you have the champions for the next 60 years. Totally agree. Especially when you're going down the life cycle of tree stuff, which obviously lasts generationally, which is very, very good. If you are just joining us in, I've got a link which I've just put up. So we've got a 1-minute pitch, which is going to be later. But I wanted to integrate a stop in now where if you're watching this right now and you would like a 1-minute pitch for you, your product, your service, your business, right before we get into Hollie, or we can just jump in with Hollie and then you can come on after it, is you get 1 minute to pitch you, your product, your business, your service about anything you want live right here. I've put a little comment in, you can just scroll down. If you click that, you'll pop into the little studio, and then after you're in the little studio, you can just come in live, enter in, and then boom, you're away live, and you can get a free 1-minute plug for you and your business. And we've got another one coming up later. Next guest, moving into politics. We transition well. I'm very excited for this one because I've been slowly cluing up. I'll bring in it. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Hollie Bennett.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm finding I'm getting older and I'm caring more about politics. That's what I feel is happening. Or not caring about it, caring about the implications of it. So I want to know what's happening with it.
Absolutely. And don't you think that is what sort of happens for the majority of people throughout their lives? Because that's what we see in the voting numbers. It tends to be, 40s and over that consistently turn out. And it's under 30s that are harder to engage.
It's because you don't give a shit when you're younger. You don't. You just stuff it.
Well, you have to caveat that. Not everyone gives a shit.
Not yet. There's a lot more wokeness than... I take it back. There is a lot more wokeness than there was. Woke wasn't a thing, but still in numbers, it's disproportionately weaker than it probably should be, to be fair, right?
And it could also do with your upbringing. So obviously I grew up in a household where current affairs brought in the pootsier. So it was never not talked about. And
that's a fair point.
Robust debate was definitely encouraged around the dinner table. Probably encouraged less as I got older, as I started winning more arguments. But
Dirty room. Well, actually, you're just upset because I stuffed you up, and it's fuck. And then there's probably those chats as soon as you bailed out, they're like, oh shit, I think she got us. But I think she did. Yeah, she's good. How's the week been, Miss Hollie Bennett? How's the world and politics been for you?
Overall, it's been an interesting week. I think the top thing that we need to talk about, and I don't know how it has come to you, if it has come to you, to your radar, but is this issue about the green school. Have you caught up with it?
Yes. Give me top line. Basically, old mate got 10 million or something for a school when treaty settlements were just way less. And he did it. Is that right?
Yeah, so that in essence, yes. Yeah, so basically there's a private school in Taranaki that was established this year. It has only got provisional approval to be a school, so it's not fully registered yet. That applied, as one would expect, for assistance from the government under the shovel-ready stuff. And every business that can do infrastructure would make no sense for them not to apply. They applied $11.7 million and got granted it as a grant. So $11.7 million for a not fully registered private school in Taranaki got taxpayer funding, or approved taxpayer funding.
Now, what's the plug-in with politics? Old mate was on the board or something? How'd that hook up?
So I've been having a look. I can't really see any direct...
What's the crossover? Yeah.
Yeah, so how it came... So the minister that pushed for it, the minister that is then now having to deal with the fallout, especially with his own members, the Green Party members, because they have a policy, a specific policy that says government funding, aka taxpayers' dollars, does not go to private schools. And I think, that in generally speaking, that sounds absolutely reasonable, because public schools are charging, what is it, $90 a year, as a donation.
30,
then private schools are charging $24,000 around there. So, it makes sense to say, okay, well, yes, so we should be funding the public schools, because they don't have these revenue streams. basically, from what I can see, is that James Shaw was so Minister Shaw was introduced to the people who are leading the school, so the founders of the school, through the Taranaki mayor, so the district mayor, and that is the connection. Other than that, there's not really any other connection.
So how'd this even get through for something private to get the public money?
So that's what's sort of coming back to the heart of the issue, and that's why people are a little bit, a lot in uproar, is because it was in essence something that Minister Shaw pushed. And again, it goes back to Green Party, that they have their own policy to say to not fund private schools. And you can see from their membership, that's why they're so upset, because it's directly in contrast. Don't have words written on a piece of paper if you're not going to do them when you're in government. And that's sort of, I understand that's why they're upset, and I can see that. Totally. And then so the wider thing, the wider problem is that the public school principals, which I think is quite an astute PR move, the public school principals in Taranaki have all written invoices and sent them all down to the government.
I love that.
I think that's
great.
I think that's fantastic, and said, well, if you're going to fund a private school, then here's our invoice. Help us get some stuff.
So what's the bit that we're missing? He represents a party that said on paper that they're not going to give public money to private schools. He then pushes for the private school to get it, even though it's not fully... Something's just off, right? Like, what's the hook?
Okay, so the hook is... for me...
What's the actual hook, publicly? Like, what's Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, there's two. The first is that it's not a fully registered school. So it's only got provisional registration. So it could still tip over. You know how, if you put an offer on a house... But that just makes it
even worse. It's provisional. So not only are you not supposed to do it, you've then given it to someone who's not even actually a legit full school yet, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yes. So it's like offering you put an offer on a house, which has got conditions.
Yeah.
And then if it falls over, you haven't got the house. You can't just say, oh, well, it's my house, just because it's, I've put it in an offer. So it's the same principle. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that it's a private school. From what I have read, it's it's there to create profit, which profit's not a bad thing. In business, you can be driven by creating profit. But it's that $11.7 million was given to this private school when they have public schools all across the motu. You think about Kura Kaupapa, there's many educational facilities that are publicly funded that are saying, please help us with this, we need this. So it just is a little bit distasteful.
Well, I don't know all the ins and outs, but if you've clearly given public money something which you shouldn't after it's written down, and then you've gone to not only just a regular private school, not even just a provisional one, someone's going to get the axe. So who gets the axe?
Well,
who signed the check?
I don't know if that's... So obviously Minister Shaw is a Green Party minister, so he's Green Party. And then he has said that Labour Party, Chris Hipkins, who's the education minister, so shout out to Cam, who said that's who the education minister was, when you're like, I don't know who it is.
You're smart. Some dude.
Has said that Minister Hipkins gave his approval. And now Minister Hipkins is like, no, I didn't. And you've got New Zealand First as the other governing party also being like, you were the one, to James Shaw, you were the one that pushed for this. So the other political parties, Labour and New Zealand First, are distancing themselves and putting it right on Green Party. So when you say who's going to get the axe, personally, well, I think that's what their membership is pushing on their leader, and he has apologised. But I think you'll see that come out maybe in the election. Because can you really, I don't know, it would be, I'm not sure if we think about the people who have lost their jobs today as ministers, I don't think it's as egregious, but it's just sort of distasteful. And I can understand why the Green Party membership is upset, because it goes directly against their policy. And as I said before, there's no point in having policy if you're not going to do it. It's not worth the paper it's written on then.
So, flick me James's email, and I'd love to say, hey, mate, I don't know much about your world, but you and your mate Chris sound like you guys stuffed up. Want to have a chat?
Well, I think you've just said that to him. I think you've just said that to him now on Robett Live. So,
no, but there's always more. That's what I'm saying. Like we missed like that. It just doesn't. It seems off, and there's always anytime something seems off, it's because there's always way more shit that that you never know about. So as much as you like, not that it's like hearsay, you see what you read, but what you read in the newspapers is usually the tip of the iceberg for what actually happens. And I've seen it multiple times with how these things play out. And but it's pretty disappointing. I did want to ask you a question, actually. Yes. I saw an article about Hosking's interview with Jacinta, and I saw them in person. Obviously, they don't have the probably the best relationships at the best of times. And I think that the vibe of the article is essentially saying there's nothing wrong with being a journalist, but there's something wrong with being a dick, and basically saying old mate was being a dick. Where do you feel runs the line of a journalist or someone as a media personality that has a political opinion to then use, I guess, disrespect authority? Is disrespect authority the right word? But like,
no, it's not the right word.
Yeah. What do you, like, are you allowed just to talk to politicians like that? Like, just watching the interview, it just felt really kind of mean and cut offy and talk overy and jabbery and kind of just a bit gnarly. Are you allowed to do that as a journalist?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, it's called holding the government. It's called holding the government to account. And I listened to that live. No.
Go for it.
I'm going to give you a different opinion, which is I listened to it live when it happened, and all he was doing had a succession of questions which are publicly reported on. So it wasn't any gotchas. It wasn't like I've been sitting on some information and saying, as the leader of our country, as the head minister of our cabinet, what can you say about this? And I was astounded at the little level of detail that was given in the responses in terms of even just being aware of some of these issues. And the whole point of this is that when you have a department like Department of Internal Affairs writing to councils who are local body, who are local bodies that have their own mayor and their own councillors, saying we have to have a look at what's going on in your, for want of a better term, dysfunctional council. That is a government department who is there, mandated on behalf of the government, asking questions, in essence, to find out what's going on with an issue. There's a minister that's responsible for that department, which is Minister Tracy Hipkins. Therefore, she would have got briefings on this stuff. They often don't go off and do things of this magnitude or this level just by themselves on their own volition, which means Minister Martin would have known about this. And for some reason, some way in the chain, these briefings or this information is not being spread to the top. And what I would say is that, yes, COVID is an extremely important thing that we have to deal with. But when you are Prime Minister, you have to deal with everything going on in the country.
Got it. So I guess my question wasn't necessarily about the questions that were asked, but the tone of the interaction between journalists and politician. Are there codes that you should be sort of going by, or is it kind of fair game to just roll like that?
It's fair game. My dad always said to me, as someone who had 40 years in the industry, and he got hung up on by Helen Clark and got sued by Don Brash. So, he said, and he stands by this, and I believe it to be true to this day, and I always think about it in terms of politics, that when when politicians stop responding to the media, it's when they've lost it. Because the media, the fourth estate, is often the only way that we know what's going on, and our politicians are held to account.
So you're saying go harder, and
absolutely,
so they should, because we need to know.
Absolutely. So, have you seen some of the rhetoric around these 1 p.m. briefings, that there's been some journalists who say, I can't get in my proper investigative questions because the timing is so short, and it's the only, it's lauded as the transparent way in which to ask partai of the government, and it's regular, like regular questioning. But what they're saying is that I need 3, 4, 5 questions to be answered, and everyone doesn't answer them because they're saying go to the 1 o'clock briefing. But all I get is one question.
Oh, so that's a different take, because when I haven't watched many sort of sit down sort of interviews, I guess, with journalists and politicians. Like some of the questions, you could tell it was like pretty. Yeah, you're probably right. She probably didn't go deep enough on the details because there's probably a bunch of shit that maybe there's going on that she doesn't know about. But I guess mine was the tone of the energy of it. And if you're saying, hey, if you represent that position, regardless how they ask you the question, they're flipping asking you the question. So shut up and answer it, right?
Yeah, but it all comes from perspective. So, if we had, for example, I'll flip it. You had John Campbell going in on Simon Bridges when he was Minister of Transport, I think.
Burgerfield.
And that was
Minister of
No, not you. John Campbell.
No,
oh my God. Don't put Robett Hollis and John Campbell in the same. You can't do that. What I would say is that, so John Campbell, again, pressed Simon Bridges on a number of things. I can't remember what it was about. Maybe he was
going left
Justice.
to right, not right to left.
Yeah, and then so everyone, you saw the people who don't like Simon or don't like National Party saying, yeah, great interview, fantastic, more of that, versus everyone who may be a supporter of Simon or supporter of the National Party saying like, that was a little bit tough. You're just going to get it. It's politics.
Yeah. So,
people are like that. They inherently look at what is on their side or the side that they believe in, and then they flip it.
So if Hoskins is on the right and Campbell's on the left, who sits in the middle that as an independent face of New Zealand journalism who's respected to ask a question down the middle?
Robett Hollis.
Does that exist? No, I just
Robett
don't know.
Hollis.
No. I don't even know what the Minister of Education is. Cast me in the middle. I wouldn't by default because I don't know either. No. But so my point, so basically you're saying journalists with platform clearly lean a certain way and they are fair to attack it on each side. When one goes to the other side, all the Labour supporters are like, oh, that was super mean. And all the writers are like, yeah, shit, yeah, go get her. But then if it was to be flipped, then it's like, hey, John, you're an asshole for going hard on, yeah, okay, I see. So but serious question, who's a journalist that creates content from an independent third-party perspective that isn't biased?
Well, so all of them would say that that's what they do.
But they don't.
Because that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. But I don't want to cast comment on people's like political views and whether that influences what they do or don't do. It's like the same with judges. They're supposed to be impartial judges, but they're all going to have their own life experiences, which are going to impact the way in which they execute their job. So to answer your question, perhaps the state broadcaster, Radio New Zealand, so that's the fund, they're funded by the government. And so perhaps their place, but then you get the rhetoric that comes out when they do other stuff to say, oh, well, I can't bite the hand that feeds you, can you? So there's that tension that exists there. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for your question.
That's pretty, I mean, I guess the good thing about, say, New Zealand potential media is you've got, or to the majority of it, it's not like it's in America where it's CNN this way, Fox that way. We're talking about people within a platform, not necessarily the platforms, which are totally split if they're talking about the mergers, right? So maybe in some ways we're talking about individual perspectives instead of, big corporate entities with bigger interests. Finally,
absolutely.
as well, did you see the? See, I'm starting to get into it just a little bit. The Collins versus Jacinta questions in Parliament as well, which I watched. Did you see that?
Which on Tuesday?
I saw it on Wednesday. Yes, it must have been Tuesday. Yeah, and it was just very like, why didn't you said the border security was good, and then why is it only 200 out of 9,000 or whatever has only been like it was just she asked it so like calmly and savagely like a tweet that I was like, yeah, that seems like a reasonable question, and then it was just quite weird. What was the feedback from that? Was that good or bad? Who won that one?
Well, I don't know if it's winning or not. It's the House is. So Parliament, the House, it is very question time. The whole purpose of question time is to hold the government to account, right? So that's when you have politicians from the opposition asking government ministers who spend taxpayers' dollars about issues.
Do they know the questions that's come in?
They only know the first one.
Okay. Right.
So, like, for example, when I was an advisor, my whole job was to make sure that we could respond to what opposition was saying. So we'd have the first question, and then I'd have to prep for all the potential other things, and who knows where a question is going to go, you know? So, like, you'd have to try to think, oh my God, where might this go, and what am I going to say? And then you have to prep, and you get 4 hours to do that. So the questions come in at 10, and then House sits at 2. So you have 4 hours to prep your minister and your minister to know what they're talking, you know, what's going on, and then go down to the House and actually tell the truth. Because the other caveat to all of this is that if they say something incorrect in the House, that's misleading the House, which means that's misleading the public, and that can be subject to a privileges complaint, which is the top sort of thing, you know, sanction that can happen in Parliament. So to say who won, I don't know. It's very difficult in the House to say if it's win or lose, because it's an exercise that they do when House is usually sitting every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it's actually often used as an information gathering, and you can ask to find out more information. So when I was watching it on Tuesday, the reason why I knew the school was not officially registered was because Nicola Willis, who's an opposition MP, asked Chris Hipkins, the education minister, about the Green School insofar as he could answer it, and then asked about the registration of the school. And that was when he said, no, it wasn't officially registered. So that is one of the uses of question time, is actually information gathering rather than winning, losing, point scoring. Yeah.
But then they then know, as soon as they get that, if they've got an inkling that it is, then they can go, and then the backstory that pops out of it, then all of a sudden, then journalists will listen to that.
Yeah, because there's a press gallery that sits up and looks down on the House as well. So they know so they're sitting in there watching it, and which is why this holding the government to account, no matter which government is so important, because this is where you get the heart of many, many issues. You know, there'll be an inkling, like you just said, and then that requires further investigation, which means more questions.
I get it. Learning more every day, Hollie.
Yes.
Anything else bubbling? Big weekend ahead?
Big weekend ahead? No, it's been an extremely tough week. I've had a lot of things going on. I moderated a debate on Thursday.
Go on.
For Auckland Central candidates, which was...
Oh, who was that?
So fun. So Chloe Swarbrick from the Green Party, Helen White from Labour Party, Emma Mello from National Party, and Tuariki Delamere from TOP. And he's former Labour cabinet minister. He held the immigration portfolio and now's come back with TOP. So I had those 4 candidates I had to moderate. It was fantastic. It did get a little bit heated at times. And the thing that I found extremely exciting was right at the end when we had the Q&A and we asked about tax. And so at that point, Tuariki had left, but I had the other 3 wahine on the call, and it turned into like a big debate about Green Party policy and Labour policy and national policy and who had the best tax policy. But the thing I would say is it's an example of very respectful, robust debate. So there was no point in that where I felt I had to need to step in, but they all had their go, and it was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, shit, yeah. Sounds like you lightened up when you talked about being a moderator. Maybe you're the middle person that could craft these things, and they can safely come to you. I think it's good. But just quickly, let's say if you earn if you run a company that makes $10 million now today, who should you vote for? If you made $10 million.
Well, why is your vote measured by how much money you make? Or whether you're in business?
No, I'm saying that whose tax policy would be the best.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You had to give context to your part.
Sorry, context. You're talking about the tax policy. You're talking about taxes.
Directness. Okay, here you go. So National would keep everything the same. So they said that they would just make no changes in the next term. Labour's tax policy is yet to come out. Helen said it's coming out shortly. So maybe it's coming out today, maybe it's coming out early next week. And Green Party said that they're going to put a wealth tax on. So it's up to 45% tax on wealth for over $1 million, I think it is, which includes assets and things like that. So I guess it's whatever you're driven by, your values and behind. But what I say is status quo, national, and we don't know, Labour, because it's going to come out shortly. And if you inherently think that you don't pay enough tax and you want to pay more, then perhaps the Greens, if you're in that income bracket.
Perfect. Now, who out of all of it is going to pay my wife, if she was a nurse at Starship, more?
Well, that's
Or
a different
teachers?
policy question.
That's what I'm saying. Well, who's got the best policy that's going to pay the teachers or the nurses more?
I love what I do,
you know
but
yet?
I don't go through line by line and look at their policies so
um,
that I can answer your
I just
random
like it
pastime.
because it's if you go, this is question time. It's question time. Big business clearly goes blue and national with taxes, and then I'm interested to see who's going to look after the teachers who help the kids, and it's a balance off. I appreciate your time, Hollie. Be good this weekend. Hopefully you go check out some very cool stuff, and let me know how it all goes, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, bro. See ya.
Be good. I'll give you claps.
Yes. Thank you.
Adios. There you go. A lot of politics today. Team, 1 minute pitch time. I'm actually quite excited for this one. Usually, people have an email's introduction. I got an email with a link to a video, which was an introduction about the introduction we're about to have. So we went meta before we'd even met. So, ladies and gentlemen, bring it into the stream. I'll give you claps. Marlon, what's up, my friend?
Oh man, enjoying life. What about you?
A-okay. I'm very excited for your 1 minute pitch. Now,
I'm excited.
if I get it right, it's Marlon Johnson.
Marlon Johnson. Yeah, think Marlon Brando.
The Marlon. And so where you before I'll give you a minute, where do you live? Where are you based?
I'm based now in Victoria, British Columbia in Canada, but left from Wanaka.
Oh, so wait a second. Are you not in Wanaka? Where are you?
I'm not in Wanaka at the moment. I'm now in Victoria, BC.
Oh, no shit. Dude, so you're doing your 1 minute pitch, not even from New Zealand.
Yeah, but holding it true, just overseas.
Dude, that is flipping great. I love it. That is so good. I love you cheeky bastard. I think it's flipping great. Good on you, mate. You live the flipping dream. That's great. Okay, I'm just going to try and put this off. Okay. Are you ready to rumble? I'm going to bring in the little timer.
I'm ready.
And then I'll count you down, and you can absolutely. I'm interested for this one, and I love the hustle that you're not even in New Zealand. It's so great. Okay, all right, 3, 2, 1, go for it, buddy.
Mental health and adding to our toolkit. I've created a fundraiser, a 30-hour walk on September 19th and 20th for an organization called Take a Hike. Take a Hike engages vulnerable youth in a full-time program of intensive and continuous clinical counseling, outdoor adventure, academics, and community. They empower youth with the skills and resilience they need to navigate the challenges of life, build healthy relationships, and carve out their own path to success. 30 hours is an hour for every time I've been around the sun, a goal of raising $30,000, getting Robett to 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and raising education and conversations surrounding mental health, growth, and development. I'm doing the 30-hour walk as a challenge to myself, and I challenge you to take a moment after this and consider the conversations that you and your peers are having surrounding mental health. And if you're in a position to do so, donations are hugely appreciated.
Mate, well done. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. I'll remove that out. Oh, hold up.
Yeah.
Up. Okay. Good pitch, mate. Well done. So 30-hour walk.
Yeah.
It's aggressive.
Yeah. It's aggressive. I've been training modified a marathon training program.
Jeez. Aggressive. And so what's the website? Where can they go to?
On GoFundMe, if you search 30-hour walk, or Instagram MaxJoy. And can I link in the comments or somewhere?
Yeah, of course, man.
Cool.
So MaxJoy 30-hour walk, GoFundMe. What was it?
Yeah, on GoFundMe.
Awesome. Hey, nice to meet you, man. Appreciate the email intro and the video intro before the intro. So very meta. Well done. I'll give you little claps.
Woo. Yeah, thanks so much.
Shot, buddy. Awesome, brother. Talk soon. Very cool. last but not least, Cassie, Roma, Weapon. I'll give you. I know you like the music to come in. Hey,
You know
Cassie.
it. Morena, how are you?
A lot of politics talking today. A lot of politics.
Tell you what, I needed a few coffees for this. Oh,
Jeez, a lot of. So let's switch it. Let's talk about the new YouTube algorithm that's demonetizing.
should we talk about the new law in Australia where they're just not going to allow like news people to be on, or the news sites? No, we'll not talk about that. We'll not talk about that today. I'll send you a link.
Roma, have you gone for your run today?
I'm going to do that. I had one yesterday, and I am doing a lecture actually for Auckland Uni next. So after the lecture will be the run.
Very cool. What's the lecture on?
The lecture is going to be on purposeful storytelling for businesses and how to cut through the content clutter.
Cutting through, very, very topical. Very topical right now. This week in New Zealand business, media, tech, all your awesome worlds, what's been the most important thing that's mattered to you this last week?
The thing that's most mattered important, but I've had 4 coffees. Can we just talk about the effect of caffeine on my brain on a Friday morning? This is just, well, maybe it would help. This week, I think the reason I'm stumbling over my words is because I've had so many people this week, robett, so many people reach out about when our big business is going to start talking about, not just big businesses, all businesses and culture as a whole, start talking about the fundamental effect of 2020 and the negative aspects of it on the mental health of our young people. And that includes like the university students I'm going to be talking to, the young folks in the media industry, you know, the 23, 24, 25-year-olds coming up and through and who've lost their jobs. When are we going to start putting into action, not just talking about what the world's going to look like this time next year for them and for business? Because the mental health side of this pandemic, I don't think we've even scratched the surface. And if we don't have healthy, happy employees or people hungry to hustle and to do their jobs, then it's gonna be a long tail.
And right from the start of the first lockdown, this was something that we had talked about, and I've brought up multiple times, of the long tail of the headspace of a nation is
that's right
going to be gnarly. And this is what's even crazier is we're talking about a country with only 5 million people that went lockdown for like 5 weeks, COVID free for 100 days or whatever, and now back into like a bit of a little dip. And if we're talking about that in New Zealand, what's America going to do? I'm in month.
That's right.
We're in month 6. Month 6.
Yes, you are. Yes, yeah. My parents started locking down in February. Yeah. It's
so. Go.
I feel like the second little blip, and we talked about this last week as well, the second wave has been so much harder for everybody. I was talking to somebody super high up in one of the biggest agencies here in New Zealand yesterday. And, you know, she said to me, shit, it has been hard. It's been hard on her for work. It's been hard on clients. It's been hard on her children. I know that my teenager struggled the second time around. The first time around, it was like novel, right? It was a novelty. Yeah. This time around, it's like, oh shit, this could be the way it's going to go. So cool. We start to figure out how we do business, how we sell, how we productize, how we get things out into the ether, and how we cut through the content clutter. But where's the heart and soul behind it, and how do we look after our people? Just like you said, the mindset of the nation. This time next year, we can start planning for that now.
Totally agree. I put a post up. I was like, whoever gets into government next needs to flip and quadruple down. And it was really interesting because so many people were like, shit, yes, totally into it. And I got a bunch of feedback that said, there is actually enough money there. It's been spent so badly with the worst shit possible that that's what's actually causing the stuff ups. And so it was just really interesting. You see one problem, but those that are in the mix are actually like, money's actually good. How they're spending it is utterly horrendous. And, got some good friends in the mix there. So what do you think the headspace of businesses, owners are? Let's say your friend that runs the agency.
Yeah. Where's
your headspace at in terms of how they are repositioning what their business needs to do for the future? If we're going to potentially dart back and forth over the next little while, how they
I've been really heartened to see a lot of folks taking this as super serious. It's not just one of those like corporate speak moments where businesses have started to go, okay, we recognize this, we're gonna slow down. And a lot of the big businesses are starting to look at their operations, and instead of calling their people resources, going, how do we take care of these human beings who are the lifeblood of what we do? I listened to the CEO of Wildfang earlier talking about the importance of people and why businesses exist. So, we've been hearing for the last few years about purpose-led businesses and people going, we don't understand what our purpose is and should we be here? And it's like, now's the time, because it's the purpose that will help the nation along. From a monetary perspective, I'm going to leave that, and like a governmental, I'll leave that with Hollie and you to banter on, because I caught your last question about the questions from the journalists. And it was interesting to hear her take on that, because I had a different take. I was the one screaming at the TV, "Be quiet, Jason."
Well, no, yeah. You come from a place of kindness, and I guess my question was around that of, is it quite, it sounds like you're talking to another human quite mean. Does the question need to be mean with, and also like, he sounded a bit like a dog with a bone, which I understand. We need to hold all of our government officials. We have to hold them to account. I get that. But is the 1 p.m. COVID briefing the place and time? If it is, and I just am unaware of that, then maybe we need to make that clear to the public so we're not yelling at our TVs. But I'm with you. Like, you can be clear and you can be strong and you can also be kind. Yeah, got it. And I probably the disappointing.
I feel like such a mom this morning.
Yeah, 4 coffees will do that to you.
You can do this and you can do this.
Quickly changing tack, I saw a post from Wendy Thompson talking about there's an influencer charter or something that was popping up, like not a charter as such, some type of new advertising guidelines. Do you know much about what's bubbling there? You looked into that?
I haven't, only because I've heard from probably a dozen different sources that this is something that's been bubbling away for a while. I think there's a similar look in the States for not just as an influencer, but a marketing charter as such. I believe one exists. So this is kind of like a spin-off. There's one in Australia that's in the making as well. I will be interested to see how it flows and to see how brands and creators alike, how they apply it in the actual like iteration that they put out into the world.
Yeah, I might actually be keen to maybe get Wendy on the show to talk it through, because it's something that I feel pretty passionate about in terms of not only the business models behind it, but how there's been so many glaring holes that are causing big problems for brands and people and the rest of it that still haven't been addressed, even though we've talked about it a million times. So it's cool that maybe it finally is, because obviously maybe the marketplace is just finally catching up or whatever. You want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah. I just have a deeper thought on all of that too, is that especially in New Zealand, where we have, like you said, we're a team of 5 million here, and it has taken us a while to catch up to where, quote unquote, the rest of the world is, or that at least that's one way of looking at it. Sometimes I think of that Kiwi consumers and Kiwis just as human beings are a little bit more switched on when it comes to influencer marketing, content creation. So I see a lot of influencers getting away with things where they haven't hashtagged gifted or hashtagged ad, but at the same time, it's glaringly obvious to consumers that it is an ad or it is gifted. So I feel like there's always going to be,
I think it's going to get to the point. What I might do is, get her on, talk it through it, but it's just super simple for me. If you're misleading the public through a platform when people are choosing to, follow you or whatever, you're committing fraud. If you're buying your followers and you're leveraging it for context to get paid, like I did the math and I went through, I created a little spreadsheet, and I might have told you a couple of times, 70% of New Zealand influencers have bought their shit, leveraging it to get fake money.
Of course they have.
And then the agencies that were in the middle, that like I was in a meeting with the agency with someone who I knew was buying it, and I was with the brand, and I had to pull the brand guy out, and I told him not to do the deal and to walk, and I'll explain later. And basically I showed him what I'd found, and he was like, holy shit, how is this is happening. And I said, this is how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And no one is saying anything about it. So I think this is great, because what it does is it screws with people who genuinely add value to others, who generally have partnerships, who are micro-influencers that do stuff, who have their own little sort of side gigs. They, these crew are sort of stuffing it up. But I do hope that through all this COVID stuff that, brands are looking at every penny a bit closer, and hopefully this just puts a bit of filter to try and even the playing field a little bit in terms of, the expectation. Because I genuinely feel a lot of brands are getting exploited right now with it. It sucks.
Well, and I think there's another point to that too, as somebody who's been sitting on the other side of, on the brand side of things, there is a due diligence from both an agency side of things, whether it's an influencer agency, whether it's a digital agency, whether it's a creative agency, and there's the same level of diligence that must be done by the brand marketer to go, let me just have a little tickle and see if these 100,000 followers are real people. Does this look like it's false? Did they build 2 million followers in 3 days? Or is it a Tony Street or a Hillary Berry who are loved and trusted and who tell their stories and who they actually have influence, And that's what I meant earlier by New Zealand consumers understanding and being a bit more switched on, as it were, because you can tell who the false influencers are really just by having a look at a news feed and how quickly their growth happens versus somebody who's been around for a long time, or a micro influencer. There's a woman called Caitlin Taylor who is, she helps women she's a stylist. She helps women find clothes that suit them and their lifestyles for really affordable prices.
Cool.
She doesn't have tons of followers, but she's one of the most powerful storytellers I've ever met. So how do you play in that middle ground, right? And then call out the ones who've bought their followers, and then call out the agencies in the middle of those meetings to do their homework.
Yeah. Well, I think it just screws the market for someone's lifestyle who's trying to livelihood that's been genuine. And especially when it's all digital, what's the framework for them to have a fair shot at these things? And the reality is, if they're up against a whole bunch of people that have faked it, they're actually not even in the pecking order for an opportunity because they've been pushed out through fraud. So I just feel...
that becomes education. It's an education piece.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hit up a bunch of times for people like, we'd love you to do this campaign or some shit. I was like, I just reply back, I am not an influencer, and I've never paid a cent. No one's ever given me a cent to post anything ever, and I will never do it. That's just not... Because exactly the point. If all of a sudden I come up with hashtag Colgate White Night, this is flipping great, or flipping hashtag flipping super blessed with my flipping little case from whatever. It's like
hella gifted with my lippy. I know.
Yeah, it's like piss off. That's not real world. Real world is you wake up, you look like shit, you're smelly, your eyes suck, you haven't had a shower, you need a flipping coffee, bag under your eyes, you flipping dirty, you got hair all over your shit. It's like that whole false thing. I can't wait for that to, I would love someone to become, this is actually genius. Someone should become the anti-influencer of being like real world Reg, right? And real world Reg just takes up and it's just front of gut hanging out, just hair he hasn't shaved yet, dirty dishes, because it's just
dude,
real world
that's you and me. We are real. Look at this. Look, going for a run, no makeup, Friday morning, 4 coffees in, just Bance. That's real world reach too. I mean, there's a point where, to what you said, the real folks who understand the power and the purpose of their reach and their platform and their abilities to put good into the world, where they do deserve to not be teased for the hella gifted or the unboxing or whatever they do. But the rest of it, I feel, is less of we must write a charter, or we must have new laws in place for this type of marketing, and more how in the hell do we change society so that young kids don't grow up thinking that the Kardashians and money is what they need, versus having your mate Robett drinking a soda pop in the sunshine and just going, fuck, this is the life, right? Yeah, it's a societal shift. It's a societal shift.
Hopefully there's a wave that meets us back in the middle with it. It's something that I remember when I first talked to some young bucks a couple of years ago, and what they cared about was, if I got over 100 likes, that meant I was cool in my class. And a kid told me that, and I'm just trying to comprehend in my head, this is this is what you think.
The new social currency. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Like it wasn't, I mean, ours was play sport, whatever, but, let's get Winnie on the show. I'm keen to talk about it more. And there is something that can be done. I just don't know, who's fighting the good fight for those who aren't big enough to have a voice. Like, how do you make that playing field even? It's tough, but I feel for them.
And also, Robett, does it become that, as you just said, there's a place and time where you just say, I'm actually not going to be paid to put anything on my channels, or if I choose to live a life where I am being paid for my social media influence or the person who I put myself out to be on social media, where's the give and take for what I'm willing to do and what I'm willing not to do? And I think it's an educational piece with brands as well, and going, don't be hoodwinked by the large numbers and the shiny likes. Dig deeper.
Yeah, I think it's great when you've got partnerships. I think it's shit when it's like a streaming feed of transactional, non-emotive stuff, which they don't genuinely care about. They're just like, I'm a walking billboard, just put a logo on my flipping forehead and give me 10 grand and life's all G. It's like, what? Like,
which is why, and have you seen Influencers in the Wild, the Instagram account? Which is why that has gone gangbusters, because again, like, brand marketers follow Influencers in the Wild, and then rethink all of your influencer campaigns to do exactly what Robett said, and partner with people who love your brand already. Partner with people long term.
It's like, there's, anyway. I like we go on these little mental tangents, because I don't think there's too many people that sit in the middle from both that can see it without a vested interest in it. You are, I am, we understand both sides. It's not like we're got a vested interest with equity or upside on any of the ones that represent them. I'm just thinking from a, average Billy Joe sitting in the street, that the current market
long burn,
isn't
right?
fair for them. That's not fair. So it's like, make it fair. That's all. Make it fair.
We could talk about this all day, because, winning the influencer game anyways right now is like winning the lottery when it comes to algorithms and being seen and all of that. So again, it comes to teaching young people, teaching the brand marketers coming up, teaching the agency folks, the digital marketing people, that it's a long game. It is a long game to win trust and to be able to put value back into the world. So when you put money behind an influencer campaign, do it the right way.
Well, they see it as a campaign, not consistency. That's constant with care, right? It's different.
Correct.
Always love chatting to you, Cassie. Good luck with the speech. Good luck with the young bucks. I am keen. Ask them a question around what do they feel social currency is in 2020 specifically? Like, I'd just like to know, if I was 20 right now, like what's the actual this new woke shit? Do they get it? Do they really get it?
The last time I asked that, the new woke shit was literally turning off. It was what you started to talk about earlier, when it was the anti-influencer, not online, kind of like what Elon Musk was before he got on to Instagram. That's where I can see our 18 to 22-year-olds heading already from the last few lectures I've done. So, yeah.
Cool. Be good, be well, and stay safe. I can't play you Elton, but I'll give you a bit of that.
I'll sing it in my head. A little música en español.
Adios.
Adios.
So good. Cassie Roma. Weapon. Good human. So that is us for another day. We've got getting a lot more into some of the political stuff. Next week, we've got, I think, pretty close to confirming a pretty big weapon, which might be joining. And thanks so much for the time and tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the Friday. This episode has been brought to you by brightfire.co.nz. Basically, if you're into business, education, media, events, bunch of cool stuff, there is some extremely tactical and practical information for New Zealand businesses down there we can check out. And also switch.stream. Switch.stream, you can check it out. Cool. Have a good day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of it. Be good, be well. Adios.